Chairman Hanna.
Here.
Mrs. Draw. Mr. Antelli. Mr. Beebe. Mr. Eckel. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lightfoot is excused. Mr. McCann. Mr. Yolovich.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum this evening?
There are no public forum speakers this evening.
Is there anyone present who would like to address this committee this evening? Seeing none, we will move on. I would like to introduce Mr. Scott Adair. He's the Chief Finance Officer of the Finance Department. He's here to present the proposed Monroe County operating budget for 2010 as it pertains to the public safety.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Hanna, for the opportunity to present to the Public Safety Committee this evening the 2010 proposed county executive's budget for Monroe County. This evening's presentation will spend a few minutes going through sort of an overview of the general budget, and then we'll move into public safety related specific areas. On the first slide, you'll see the operating budget for Monroe County as it's proposed, $914 million. And that's broken up into four areas that you're all familiar with: mandated, non-mandated, debt service, and non-mandated user fee supported. As you can see by the slide, the mandated costs for the county have risen by $4.5 million, or approximately 0.7% from 2009 to 2010. Non-mandated spending is flat with 2009. Debt service expenses are up approximately $2.9 million. As everybody is aware of, in today's environment with debt service costs, there are lowering interest rates, but the county has looked at each opportunity that we've had as far as refinancing goes for existing debt service and has been unable to secure any additional savings from doing a refinancing at this point. And then the last category here is non-mandated users fee supported, and those are the enterprise funds of the county, being the airport, the hospital, the public pure waters and solid waste funds. The next section of the budget, as we've spoken to before, is our grant budget. There's two categories here, one being mandated spending at $173.4 million, up $17.9 million from the prior year. With the primary driver of this, as you'll see as we get into the slides a little deeper, the grant budget primarily focuses in the human services area, daycare subsidies, family assistance, safety net, the aging department, and youth and mental health are included in these areas as part of that increase. You'll notice here the debt service number, while the slide shows it flat, you'll see a 13% increase. That's because when you're dealing with numbers this small, a number less than $50,000 will be a considerable percentage increase. So there is effectively no change in the debt service costs associated with the grant budget, but the percentage for about $40,000 winds up being about 13%. The next slide will talk a little bit about where the operating budget goes to for 2010. And today's presentation, as you'll sit through many others either earlier this evening or in the next couple of days or in the next couple of weeks, will cover each of these areas, but tonight's will be specifically on the public safety area, where you'll see 20.7% of the operating budget costs go to public safety. This is an increase of about 2.5% from 2009. In the 2010 operating budget, where the revenues and where the money actually comes from, the big piece that we normally talk about is property taxes. This year we anticipate about $346 million in property tax revenue. That's an increase in the assessed value of property in this community of about 2.2%, generating that. The county tax rate is flat at $8.99. The other categories as you go around the wheel, the next largest one being state aid at 11.6%, federal aid at 8.1%, sales tax at 8.5%. As you can see, the other numbers are either fund balance or specifically related to one of the enterprise funds. In the other area, that covers, earlier today, Susan spoke about the Planning and Economic Development Committee. The other area includes 1.4% of the total revenues. They are such things as the pilot payments, the $29.3 million budgeted for stimulus money for the FMAP, hotel, motel, and interest income, among others. The 2010 grant budget, as I spoke earlier, the primary portion of this, 68% of this is related to human services, 20.1% of this is related to health services. Public safety is the next biggest one, which we'll talk a little bit about when we get into the individual areas under the public safety sector, is 11.7% of the expenses in our grant budget. The next slide presents what the mandated and non-mandated portions are of the budget for 2010. As been discussed previously, the mandated portion of the 2010 County Executive's proposed budget is 81%, and the non-mandated is 19%. The mandated expenses by functional area. Again, as you'll see in a number of cases, and they'll talk more specifically about tomorrow evening in the Human Services Committee, Human Services is the largest portion of the mandated expenses at 34.8%. The sector that we will be talking about this evening comes in third at 17.8%, and that's public safety, $115 million. The middle, the number 2 one, is the payments to the sharing partners, which, as everyone is aware of, that is our municipal sharing agreement regarding sales tax and the payment that we make to make all of our partners, being the city, the towns, the villages, and the school districts, whole as far as the sales tax dollars go. Non-mandated expenses by functional area. Again, as you'll see, health services at 32.6% is the largest, with public safety, which is the area that we'll focus on this evening, a close second at 31.9%. The next slide kind of dovetails into what we'll be talking about in the budget office we'll be releasing as we go through 2010 and monitoring this budget. The key indicator report basically reports back to this legislative body the results that we see on a quarterly basis by elected official. And some of the things that you see here, very similar to previous years, but I'll just point them out. The county clerk's office returning approximately $2.1 million in 2009. That's up about $700,000 from the 2009 number. I misspoke. The 2.1 million is the 2010 number. The county legislature remains flat from a funding or an appropriations perspective, and the net county cost of that is $2.1 million as well. The district attorney, who is part of the public safety sector and is with us this evening, and the sheriff's department are also the other 2 elected officials on this list that will be presented this evening. The net county cost for the district attorney's office is approximately $11.6 million. Generally speaking, the appropriations for the district attorney's office, which is before he receives any revenue, is flat from 2009. The sheriff's department is up slightly, approximately, I believe it was 4%, primarily dealing with salary increases and some debt service costs that rose up for the 2010 budget. The last area is something that we will primarily focus on throughout the committees, is the county executive's line, and the net county cost there is $227 million to the county. This includes salary and benefit increases for 2010, as well as the MCC contribution going up in 2010. That concludes the portion of the general budget, and now we'll talk specifically about this evening's committee in the public safety sector. I think this particular slide is probably the most telling of all the slides that we'll go through this evening, and it talks a little bit about what the gross appropriations are in the 2010 budget for each area of the public safety sector: sheriff's department, public safety, the district attorney, and the public defender. And then the second column in this shows what the net is. So whatever revenues are received directly by these departments is ultimately a cost avoidance of what would go to net county support. So in the difference basically between each of these is revenue, whether that be local support, state support, federal support. That gets you down to the net number. We'll speak a little bit more specifically to each of those as we talk about each of the different sectors in the public safety arena. Public safety sector as a whole is predominantly driven by salaries and benefits. 63.3% of the public safety budget for the overall encompassing public safety sector is consumed by salaries and benefits. The next largest is service, supplies, and equipment at 21.5%. Debt service, 6.1%, and then interdepartmental charges of 9.1%. Public safety sector revenue, as I spoke earlier, this is what ultimately gets you down to the net appropriation. Federal and state revenues supporting public safety in the 2010 budget is approximately $27.4 million. The local support is $14.3 million. Local revenue, just to point out here, includes Sheriff's Civil Bureau fees, DWI fines, probation charges, the 911 surcharge, mutual aid, fire bureau, and crime lab charges. Ultimately, that leaves you with the county support of $168.1 million for this sector. Turning to the Public Safety Department as a whole, the appropriations from 2009 to 2010 are down approximately 4.8%. This is primarily driven by grants that will be accepted in the Public Service Department during 2010 that have not previously been accepted by this body. Ultimately, the Public Safety Department encompasses, and I'm going to just list off a few of the bigger ones. There are plenty of others. Probation, the Public Safety Laboratory, which we've all read a lot about recently, the Stop DWI program, the Office of Emergency Management, Public Safety Communications, and the 911 Emergency Communications Center. Grant appropriations for the Public Safety Department are approximately $6.2 million in the 2010 proposed budget. This second bullet here is a little confusing because we've already spoken about the 63% the public safety sector as a whole has for services and benefits, salaries and benefits. Public safety individually is 32% of their total appropriations is salaries and benefits. This is different because of the way that the 911 Communications Center is handled and that those individuals that are employed there are all city employees. So for the county's budgeting perspective, that becomes a contractual service and not a salary and benefits service. If you were to add that $13 million, approximately $13 million appropriation for that center, the numbers would rise up into the neighborhood of about 52.3% is totally salaries and benefits related to public safety. Turning to the district attorney's page, again, I spoke earlier, appropriations in the district attorneys are approximately down about $40,000 or flat. The revenue's down slightly, which leaves us with a net county support slightly up about $200,000. Some of the things here, just to kind of point out, the grants appropriation for the district attorney's office is $1.7 million in the proposed 2010 budget. And in order to get us back into the neighborhood of that 63% average for public safety sector, the salaries and benefits in the district attorney's office are approximately 83% of their overall appropriations. Turning to the public defender's office, the appropriations here of $7.7 million are up approximately 2.7% from last year. Revenues are relatively flat, leaving us with about a $7 million net county support. Again, another area that's heavily influenced by salaries and benefits, 87% of their appropriations are salaries and benefits. The proposed 2010 operating budget of the county has approximately $578,000 of grants for the public defender's office. The last section, or the last sector of public safety, and the largest sector of it, is the Sheriff's Department. Appropriations are up in the Sheriff's Department and with the proposed 2010 County Executive's budget by 4.8%. This is approximately $6 million over the previous year. The biggest driver of this is debt service costs, which are up approximately $3.2 million, and that is basically due to a refinancing that happened in 2004, where we see a spike in the 2010 debt service payment for one particular capital project that the Sheriff's Department is responsible for. So there is no avoiding that particular debt service payment or refinancing that debt service payment at this point in time. Revenues are flat, basically. I think everyone is familiar with the different services provided by the Sheriff's Department, being the Civil Bureau, the Police Bureau, the Criminal Investigations, Airport Security, Jail Bureau, Court Security, Staff Services Bureau. In the 2010 proposed budget, the grants appropriation for the Sheriff's Department are approximately $11.8 million. And again, just to kind of average things out, after we talked about the public safety sector and the low side of the salaries and benefits, the Sheriff's Department is primarily salaries and benefits driven organization, and 75% of its total appropriations are in the salaries and benefits area. That concludes my presentation for public safety sector, and I will turn it back over to the chairman to either take questions or we can take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adair. I think we will entertain questions on the budget right now. So, do we have any questions?
Thank you. This question is to the public defender. It appears that the Alternative to Incarceration Division is no longer being funded. Let's wait till you get up there. All right. Okay, I'll repeat the question. It appears that the Alternative to Incarceration Division is no longer being funded. According to last year's budget books, this division reflects the integration of the social workers, case manager component into the public defense function and is directly supervised by the public defender. Please explain why this division appears to be eliminated.
The reason for the elimination is largely due to the fact, through the chair, largely due to the fact that the services provided by the two employees of the Public Defender's Office, who are what we call ATI workers, were pretty much subsumed by the specialty courts, the development of specialty courts in Monroe County. So the two workers that were providing ATI services were really providing overlap services that weren't really necessary for our clients. The program, as originally envisioned, allowed for these two ATI workers to create alternative to incarceration programs for clients that have drug and alcohol addiction issues. Since the creation of the ATI program, we now have a Rochester misdemeanor drug treatment court. We now have a felony drug treatment court. We have a veterans court. We have a mental health court, and we're now going to have a DWI track in misdemeanor drug court. Because we have all of those specialty courts addressing the needs of those clients, it was becoming increasingly difficult for the ATI workers to meet their grant totals or plans accepted. And the vast majority of those 80 clients that had been receiving services previously will be, their needs will be addressed by the specialty courts.
Okay. One more question. In 2009, this division was fully funded at $157,000 plus. Are you going to redistribute those dollars to the other divisions?
Well, a portion of that funding was through a state grant. And another reason why for the elimination of the program is 10 years ago, those two positions were largely funded by a state grant. And over time, that state grant had reduced to the point where it made no economic sense to continue funding the positions. It went from about $100,000 to about $17,000. The savings, if you will, for the eliminating of those two positions are just going to offset the other increase in the public defender budget, largely attributable to increase in salary and benefits.
Okay. And just one more question through the chair to the administration. So day treatment will not have a role in this particular area?
Through the chair, when you say day treatment, are you referring to pretrial services?
Well, I was under the impression through the chair to the administration, weren't some time ago these programs being run by various community organizations?
Well, through the chair, the particular workers that are being eliminated in the Public Defender's Office were employees of the Public Defender offices that would work with local agencies to prepare plans to address needs on behalf of defendants. I believe those local agencies will still exist and still be available to provide treatment opportunities for defendants.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Question on the sheriff's highlights. You mentioned the debt service increased by $3.2 million, and you didn't mention what it was. I was just curious to what that was for.
Through the chair, that was related to the jail project. So it was debt service for the jail.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, the line item DA salary bonus on page 526 does not appear to have any appropriation for the 2010 budget. Is this dependent on grant or aid dollars? And if you could clarify that, I'd appreciate it.
Through the chair, we've previously previously received that grant the previous 2 years. That funding for that grant has stopped at this point. If that was to be reappropriated or come forward, again, we would then bring that to the legislative body to approve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, going back to the public defender, in the budget on page 536, in the line item for rental space, 2008 shows it over $233,000, and it increased the following year to $240,000. This year, you're showing it to be $263,000. That's a 14.3% increase in the last 2 years. Is there any particular reason for that?
Through the chair, that were the lease payments that the Public Defender's Office makes to the landlord was obviously pursuant to a lease that was negotiated by the county with the landlord. The Public Defender's Office has no control or oversight in regards to the lease itself.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, where is the public defender running the space?
Through the chair, the Public Defender's Office is located in the Executive Office Building, actually right across the street. We take up the entire second floor and about, I'd say, 20% of the third floor as well.
Is there any other discussion?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir? Plenty of discussion. Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, based on reforms made to the Rockefeller drug laws in 2009, it would appear that the caseload of public defenders, probation officers, and the work of the DA's office would increase. And I believe that Bob Burns made some reference to this last month. However, the budget for DA and Public Defender's Office are only up a few $100,000 from last year, and the public safety budget is down from 58.4 to 57.3. How is it possible that these projections are really realistic given the changes in the new
laws? Through the chair, the creation of the Judicial Diversion Program would not result in any net increase in caseloads for the Public Defender's Office. What will occur is that cases that would otherwise be prosecuted outside of the Judicial Diversion Program will be diverted to this new felony drug court. So it's not a net increase in caseloads for the Public Defender's Office.
Thank you very much. And on page 256, the 2009 budget book details the Public Safety Department services are 61% mandated. However, the 2010 budget book states that the mandate is now 62%. Could someone please clarify that?
Through the chair, the percentage difference is approximately 1%. Looking at the records over here, it appears as though there's many changes throughout the organization, probation probably being the largest of the mandated services that has changed, but we can provide you a list of that to provide a little bit more detail in light of the calculation, the percentage change difference.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, page 260, PEH, personnel services costs are dropping by over $1 million with no drop in employees. How is that possible?
And through the chair, that's grants related.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, in regards to Public Safety Department, is there anything that's set up to show where the first payment of the county, the M3SI LDC appears in this budget? I couldn't find it in here. According to the referral, the county shall make the payment at an average cost of $11.2 million. Is it in this budget, or is it going to be planned on next year?
Through the chair, portions of it are in this budget. As you would understand, the project is a multi-year project, so the expenses in year one would not be that significant and are in the same categories as that were referred to in that original budget referral. And I believe we'd provided a memo to both sides of the aisle regarding where those appropriations would be found. And that memo holds true for the 2010 appropriation for the Public Safety LDC.
Excuse me, one more question in regards to that through the chair. Could we get some kind of detail of that $11.2 million, of what exactly is going to be allocated into this year's budget?
And through the chair, we can provide that.
Thank you.
Yes. The chair to the administration, on page 263, and I believe 508, personnel services for the Office of Probation is decreasing by $373,847, even though this body heard a number of occasions that staffing and caseloads concerns of probation officers. How many vacancies are there currently in the Office of Probation?
Through the chair, at the present time, there's 28 vacancies in that department.
And through the chair to the administration, what is the average caseload?
Through the chair, and I'm probably not going to get this right, so if I don't, I'll have Bob Burns speak to it. It varies by segment of the probation department. Some officers carry a caseload as small as 15, while others carry a caseload as large as 140.
Okay. And just a few more questions in this line. Also in 2008, the county spent about $324,489 on overtime for probation. And is it estimated to spend another $180,000 in 209? And what do you actually think will be spent on overtime for 209?
And through the chair, the overtime numbers are what we budget and what we've amended the budget for at this particular point in time. We do expect to pay those dollars out, and as we move forward, we would anticipate spending $117,000 in 2010 as the budget book presents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. excuse me, on page 508 is what I'll be referring to. This body was told by the administration that the Office of Probation had relocated from the Wegmans building to City Place. Is this true?
Through the chair, yes, that is true.
Okay. Well, this proposed budget through the administration, or through the chair to the administration, this proposed budget shows a line item for rental of space for $430,260 to be appropriated in 08-09 and is requested for 10. What is this paying for?
Through the chair, that's for, that's an expense for rental at 80 West Main Street.
Okay, thank you. It is also budgeted to pay $68,000 in 010 for utilities cost. Which facility is that for?
Through the chair, that's the same facility, 80 West Main Street.
Okay. And this department is also budgeted to incur an interdepartmental chargeback for City Place at $771,501. Is this accurate?
Through the chair, that's accurate.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair, just a clarification to the administration. Is there another name besides 80 West Main? What's the building formerly named?
Through the chair, that's the Wegman Building.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, on page 265 of the budget, under the line item supervision fees collected, this has gone up quite a bit. Can someone explain why it's almost doubling from 2008 to 2010?
Through the chair, that is based on the increased collection efforts that have been done by the probations department, and the estimated 2009 number is what we'll be receiving, and the estimate for 2010 is accurate at this point in time.
All right, thank you.
So 80 through the chair to administration, 80 West Main Street is the Wegmans building, correct?
Through the chair, for the second time, yes, that is correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that and make sure. Hadn't we just established that we moved that department to City Place?
Through the chair, yes, we did.
Okay, and then what is the rental space of 80 West Main for?
Through the chair, that rental is for a number of agencies that perform work for the county. For they provide services for the county, and they are housed in that particular building.
Okay, so, through the chair, so since we have moved the Office of Probation, we're still paying the same amount for the space. We're renting the entire building. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have workers there from the Office of Mental Health, from the Catholic Family Center, from pretrial services, which is day reporting, Hillside's there, the Center for Youth, and Monroe County Reentry Program.
Okay, thank you. And how many of those lease space from us? A couple of them I know are not-for-profits that are not part of the county administration.
Through the chair, the Clinic for Social Legal Services reimbursed us $107,000, and Catholic Family Center reimburses us $12,000 for the space they utilize.
All right, thank you. And thank you. Through the chair, the cellular telephone line item for public safety on page 518, Central Police has rapidly increased from 27,000 roughly to 495,000 in 2009 to 385,000 in 10. What accounts for the increase between 08 and now? That's more than 10%.
Through the chair, what page number were you on?
518.
Through the chair, the increase is due to wireless devices that were required to be put into the computer terminals that are inside the police cars.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair to the administration, Tompkins County recently raised its 911 phone access fee to, I think, $1 per line per month. Do we have the ability to raise our 35 cents fee?
Through the chair, are you speaking of the landline fee or the cell phone surcharge?
I believe it's the landline.
Through the chair, I believe the question was that you were asking, Tompkins County had recently raised its landline fee to 35 cents.
Looked like it stated $1 per line per month. And I'm really wondering, is there really any difference between the landline or the cell phone, even though that they're raising the fees? Can we raise our fees by 35 cents?
Through the chair, we're going to have to get back to you on that. I don't believe that we can increase, without looking at specifically what you're talking about with Tompkins County, our landline fee at this point in time. What we proposed in the 2009 budget was increasing our cell phone surcharge, and that's where the confusion was, that's where I thought the question was related to. But if there's a landline surcharge above the 35 cents in another county, it's something that we've got to look at, because I'm not aware of statutorily them being able to charge a larger amount than the 35 cents.
Okay, thank you.
Legislatively, why don't you, if you want to go back and check that source and clarify which one?
I will definitely.
Legislator Beebe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 270 of the budget, Public Safety Communications, under the summary personnel services, the amount has gone down about 38%, over $400,000. And also the contractual services has gone down too, about 65%, $724,000. To the administration, do these changes reflect the M3SI LDC contract? Are they related in causing this?
Through the chair, no.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, are these positions being lost or transferred to lower this cost?
Through the chair, no.
Through the chair to the administration, are there any contracts that are being eliminated to cause this?
Through the chair, the answer to that question would be no, but to eliminate the game of going back and forth with yes/no answers. Ultimately, there is a grant for this public safety communications area which has not been accepted at this point that would be in the 2010, which would move that appropriation closer to what it was in the amended budget for 2009. I believe if you go back to the original budget of 2009, last year's budget book, and look at what the request was, the number is very similar to what it is in this budget book.
All right, thank you. I was only going to push it to 3 questions.
I was only going to answer with 3 no's, and then I was going to give it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, why is the 911 surcharge budgeted to produce $200,000 less revenue in 2010 than in 2009?
Through the chair, we've anticipated 6 weeks worth of that revenue in the 2010 budget.
Okay. And through the chair to the administration, same page 272, contractual services are dropping $700,000. This is primarily the contract with the city. How much are the payments to the city being cut?
Through the chair, there was a reduction in contingency funds from the 2009 budget of approximately, I believe it was $600,000 to $700,000.
Okay. And also through the chair to the administration, how is this being justified?
Through the chair, as part of the budget process, we ask each department to review the appropriations that they had from the previous year and challenge them on how they're going to prepare their 2010 budget. Ultimately, the department made the decision that they no longer needed these contingency funds, and they eliminated them.
Okay. And one more question. Does the city know this?
Through the chair, this does not impact the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, on page 521, agency contracts under public safety, the payments in 08 were $234,631. The 09 amended was $29,000, and the 2010 request is $27,005. What accounts for this drop? Can we?
Through the chair, that's grants.
It's all grants, so we didn't cut any contracts. We're expecting the. Well, I'm sorry. Then I'm going to have to say, what was the 2009? Do we have an idea of what the 2009 is?
Through the chair, the acceptance of the grants for that particular line on the budget were just recently done, which was prepared prior to the budget book being prepared. So those numbers don't reflect it. We'll have to get back to you with the number, but it was something that this body just recently approved. The conversation here at the table is that it's relatively close to what it was last year, but let us find out exactly what the number is right now, and we'll get that to you.
So through the chair, we're expecting 2010 to be relatively close again to this.
Through the chair, late breaking development, you're voting on this contract this evening. So yes, and my understanding is the number is relatively close to what it was in the previous 2 years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I didn't want to say anything.
Any other discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the chair, to the administration, in the sheriff's budget, page 379, the overall budget has increased 4.2%. I believe that it was, I just want to clarify this again, that at the presentation, this is mainly driven by the debt service cost.
Through the chair, there's 2 components to it. The largest component being the debt service cost. That was up approximately $3.2 million, or over half of that increase. The remainder of it is salaries and benefits.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, on page 387 of the budget under Police Bureau, it's under Personnel Services, there's a increase in that cost of 5.5%. I wonder if you could explain if there is a correlation or with the calls to service for zones A and B. They've dropped dramatically since 2003, and zone C is down slightly too. And if calls are down so dramatically, about 21%, shouldn't we be seeing the impact of those costs and savings?
Through the chair, we'll have to get back to you with that one so that we can answer it adequately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. On page 822, the 199 Deputy Sheriff Road Patrol positions are to be employed, 9 more than last year's budget. Are there plans to hire more deputies through the chair to the administration?
Through the chair, there is no plans at the present time to hire more.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Last question. Page 383, the total cost of the sheriff office is going up, say approximately about 4.9%, while the net county cost is going up, say about 5.9% in 2010. The Police Bureau is going up, say about 5.6%, and the Jail Bureau is going up, say about 7%, while the census remains basically flat. Why are the costs going up so much?
Through the chair, as was included in the original presentation and has been answered a couple of times this evening, there are 2 primary drivers as to the increase in each of the sheriff's components, that being the debt service component, the second piece being the salaries and benefits are the primary driver. As we stated in the original presentation, salaries and benefits are approximately 75% of all the appropriations inside of the sheriff's department. So when you see a 2% raise to sheriff's department, that continues to spread across the board and will impact each of those areas.
Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, going back to probation, with one of the questions that was answered, how many vacancies are there currently in the Office of Probation? The answer was 28. I would like to know through the administration if there's any plans to fill these vacancies, if not all of them, how many?
Through the chair, we always review each and every position that is vacant inside the county to determine whether or not it will be filled through a committee of senior members of management. At the present time, out of the 28 positions, 11 of them have been approved to be filled, and probation is working on doing that.
All right, thank you very much.
Referral 09349, acceptance of a grant.
Move it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, this is the third year of funding. Are we seeing an increase or a decrease in funding?
Through the chair, I'm Jennifer Curley from the Sheriff's Office, and yes, we have seen an increase.
Okay. Performance measures?
For this project,
Yes.
it's just to enhance our current bomb team, so we're just purchasing equipment and providing training.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 09350.
Moved by legislator McCann, seconded by legislator Kelly. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Referral 09351, acceptance.
Legislator Kelly, seconded by legislator Yovich. Is there any discussion? Legislator Rock.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, why is Monroe County participating in the Buffalo Cyber Task Force?
Through the chair, we were invited.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 09352, acceptance.
Moved by legislator Yovich, seconded by legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 09353, acceptance of
Move
a
it, Mr.
grant.
Chairman.
Legislator Draw, seconded by legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Legislator Beebe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, how will the public be made aware of these, when these locations of the events are scheduled? How will they be posted and announced?
Through the chair, this grant actually funds the fitting stations, which is a set location, which is Iola, and that is listed on our website, and I believe the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety website, which is safenewyork.com. And if we do have an event, we do a press release, and the information is on the GTS website again, Safe New York, and I believe it's also on our website.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 09354, authorize a contract.
Legislator McCann, seconded by legislator Kelly. Is there any discussion? Legislator Beebe.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to the administration, when did the last accreditation take place?
Through the chair, Jen Summers, attorney for the Sheriff's Office. We were just reaccredited last year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 09355, acceptance.
Legislator Kelly, seconded by legislator Yovich. It is my understanding that there was an error on this referral, and Mr. Hufford, would you expand on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a letter that was sent to the President of the Legislature. I believe all the legislators received a copy. There's a typographical error. The dollar figure should be $318,365 rather than $318,265. And there is a technical amendment that I hope all legislators have. If not, we'll make sure that you receive copies.
Do I hear a motion for that amendment?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
I'll second.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator McCann. That's fine. We'll vote on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Amendment carries. Back to the main motions here. Any discussion? Legislator Rock.
Thank you. Through the chair, just our question through the chair, what is the current status of the backlog for DNA and firearms?
Through the chair, the current status of the backlog is approximately 950 cases in DNA.
in DNA, thank you, and through the chair for firearms.
Through the chair, the current backlog in the firearms section is approximately 1,600 cases.
Thank you. And through the chair, what does this relate to in time for us? I mean, if we're 950 cases behind in DNA, how long does it take to get a DNA sample through?
Through the chair, it depends on what type of DNA sample it is, but we are addressing it through many different efforts and increasing our staff through grant money and through technology that increases our throughput to get more cases done in a shorter period of time.
Thank you. And again, how long does this translate into time? How long, if the PD requests, DNA evidence, how long does it take to get it if we have 950 cases that were backlogged?
Through the chair, again, it depends on what type of case it is. If it is a high priority case, we could turn that around in a few days. If it is a normal priority case, it could take years to issue a DNA report.
So through the chair, there are people who are waiting years for some DNA answers.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And the firearms backlog, 1,600, is that, can I assume also that normal priority, through the chair, through normal priority would take years to get?
Through the chair, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I just, through you, Mr. Chair, through the administration, this grant increased approximately, is it $19,800 from last, $803 from last 2008?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. And then a part of that is for analysis, is for personnel? No, for that.
Through the chair, it's not for personnel.
Nothing for personnel. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Legislator Evans.
Thank you. Through the chair, not to belabor this point, but do we have an idea of what the 2008 backlog for these were?
Through the chair, the DNA backlog at the end of 2008 was approximately 1,000 cases.
And firearms through the chair?
Through the chair, I don't have that information with me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Referral 356, acceptance.
Moved by legislator Yoli, seconded by legislator Dahl. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item carried.
Referral 357, acceptance of a grant from the New York State.
Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Item carried.
Referral 358, acceptance of a grant from the New York.
McCann, seconded by legislator Antelli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Dees.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, with the acceptance of this grant, this is the 6th year receiving it, and I see there's quite a nice increase to it. Is that spread out over the 3 years?
Through the chair, yes.
All right, thank you. And also, one further question through the chair to the administration. Is this going to be tied into the new LDC, the MS3I?
Through the chair, no.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
Referral 359, acceptance of a grant from the New York.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, this is the 2nd year receiving the grant. Why the big increase?
Through the chair, the award was higher in the second year just due to the target allocation that the federal government put forth for this urban area.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Referral 360, acceptance of a grant.
I just noticed this seems very similar to 353. Is that the same kitty, the same pot, same deal, just two different grants?
Through the chair, it's the same pot of money, but there's two separate programs, one done by the Office of Public Safety and one done by the Sheriff's Office.
Thank you.
Referral 361, authorize a contract with pretrial. Referral 362, authorize a contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, this contract is a replacement project. How is this referral or project work related to the M3SI LDC deal?
Through the chair, it is not. This RFP went out in 2007, well ahead of anything that was done with LDC, and this is a software upgrade at 911 for the computer-aided dispatch system.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Referral 363, acceptance of a grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, I would ask the same question as I previously did with the referral before this. Does this referral project work in any relation to the MS or M3SI deal?
Through the chair, no, it's not. It was the grant was applied for before we even put the RFP out for that particular project.
What year was that?
The grant was due, the application was due to the state in December of '08.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, item carries.
Referral 364, acceptance of a grant.
Seconded by legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. Through the chair, I'd just like a timeline for this initiative, if somebody could give me that.
Through the chair, this is a two-year federal grant, so most of the outcomes have to be achieved by the two-year outcome time in 2011.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, item carries.
Referral 365, acceptance.
By legislator Draw, seconded by legislator McCann. Is there any discussion? Legislator Adams.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, how will this initiative work with the project discussed in our previous referral?
Through the chair, the two referrals are similar in that they are both designed to reduce the incidence of domestic violence and improve law enforcement, prosecution, probation, and victim advocacy programs' collaborative efforts. The latter referral is stimulus funds from New York State DCJS that will allow improved orders of protection processing and to improve the processing of domestic violence incident reports from police officers to probation officers.
Yeah, Thank you very much. And through the chair, could you define improved? I think it's fantastic that we improve orders of protection, but could you tell me how we're planning on improving those?
Through the chair, there's an effort throughout New York State on the issue of domestic violence incident reports where a police officer has contact with a victim or an offender during the evening hours. Previously, the probation department or the New York State Division of Parole might not be made aware of the fact that their probationer or parolee had become involved in a domestic violence incident. A very specific challenge here is to make sure that those reports are, number one, filed by the police officer, and secondly, that they're transmitted to the other agencies.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 368, authorize an intermunicipal agreement.
Seconded by Legislator Antelli. Is there any discussion? Legislator Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, the amount of this contract is for $1.5 million. Is this in line with previous intermunicipal agreements with the city?
Through the chair, yes, it is proportionately the same as the last intermunicipal agreement with the city on this, relative to this subject matter of housing unarraigned inmates.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 369, amend resolution.
Legislator Antelli, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Item carries.
Referral 370, authorize intermunicipal.
Yolovich, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the administration, these intermunicipal agreements have increased slightly since 2008. Any idea on the increase once the new lab is completed? Will there be any further increases, or will it curb?
Through the chair, the proportion that they'll pay will be proportionate to the amount of use they have in the lab.
Thank you. And through the chair to the administration, is there with the contract amounts, if they happen to go over that, is there a set fee that's in place?
Through the chair, it's just an annual fee. It's not a per case fee.
All right, thank you very much.